So, we've all read interviews with our favorite classic and hard rock musicians speaking of their blues influences. And up to a point, that blues influence is blatant. Think of all the Stones, Zeppelin, Cream, Mothers of Invention, Jeff Beck Group, and other bands' tunes which are just strict blues forms. I mean, even check out Sabbath doing Blue Suede Shoes to see the blues' direct influence on early heavy metal. At some point, though, even the blues purists began to break away from the 12-bar blues structure while still being influenced and guided by it. So think of those early Mothers, Zeppelin, or Cream tunes which don't sound like blues. In fact, they sound like early hard or heavy rock, but they still feel like blues tunes. So let's label these types of rock tunes blues-based. And how do we repurpose the blues to construct these types of blues-based tunes? Well, stick around and we'll talk about the magic rock and roll blues square. So, what's this rock and roll blues square? Well, in order to decode this structure, we need to review and visualize what's going on in conventional blues structures. Remember, blues is usually based on the 1, 4, and 5 chords. So in the key of A, these chords would be A, D, and E. And if we plot the roots of each chord on the fingerboard, we notice that the A, D, and E describe a 7 shape at the 5th and 7th frets. Now, here's the sequence of chords in an A blues. And since we're talking about early, heavy or hard rock, let's play through it with power chords. So at this point, even though we're using a rock rhythm, it still sounds like blues, right? Well, before we rush straight away into the square, let's take a look at the blues in the key of E. Okay, in the key of E, we're looking at the chords E, A, and B, the 1, 4, and 5. Well, we've already used the A and the E in the key of A, so we know where those are. Now all we need is the B, and that is 2 frets higher than the A. So if we play through the blues in the key of E, it looks and sounds like this. And notice, if we plot the roots E, B, and A, we now get an L shape. Now, if you think about it, the shapes L in the key of E and 7 in the key of A can intersect at the corners. And these points of intersection in the keys of A and E are on the chords, well, A and E. Notice that the L7 shape is effectively a square. Well, it's a rectangle, but humor me, we'll call it a square. Finally, here's the rock and roll blues square. In essence, the way to use the blues to build rock tunes without sounding like blues is, ironically, to play 2 blues keys simultaneously. Watch this. We'll use E as our 1, but we'll only play the chords available to us in an A blues. Now, does that sound familiar? Well, it's the basic chord sequence for the verses to Communication Breakdown from the first Led Zeppelin album. Notice it's blues-based, but it doesn't sound like blues because we're actually not playing 1, 4, 5. In the key of E, we're playing 1, flat 7, and 4. So these are not our conventional blues chords. We could also think of them as conventional blues chords just inside out, if that makes sense. And this 1, flat 7, 4 is a very common and powerful rock chord progression. It's known as a Mixolydian chord progression, and we see it a lot. But wait! Now, what if we shift our attention to the A and the B chords, drawing from the E blues? Now, does that sound familiar? Well, some of you might have guessed, it's the chords from the choruses of Communication Breakdown. Now, if we take that entire set of chords, the E, D, A, and B, from the blues keys of E and A, if we play them with a different rhythm, we could get Judas Priest's Living After Midnight. In other words, we can imagine both of these tunes drawing from two intersecting blues keys at once. Again, the L7. And the effect is that we feel like we're playing simple blues structures, but we sound like we're playing pure early hard rock. And all we're doing is playing through the square. But wait, it gets even sillier. Pick any root of the square and make it your one chord. Now build a progression using the other three chords in the square, and you've built another blues-based rock chord progression. And I'm doing this off the top of my head. I haven't prepared, just to show you how easy this works. Here's another one. So any of these types of progressions sound familiar? Well, almost any sequence using the four chords of the square will work. And not only that, we can justify any of the four chords of the square being the tonal center in any of those four potential keys or modes. Matter of fact, in part 2 of the Magic Rock and Roll Blues Square, let's analyze some of those key relationships and we'll build upon them. Please like, share, and subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and hit the notification bell so you'll always know when a new episode drops. And feel free to leave comments or any suggestions for any topics you might like to see in some future videos. Also, about 90% of my views come from non-subscribers, so please take this as your opportunity to join the club, as it were, if you like what I do. Also, check out my other channel, Live from the Stairwell, and check out some 100% live, unplugged performances from, you guessed it, my back stairwell. Also, keep your eyes open for String 'em Up shorts, where I address various good guitaring ideas in under a minute. My name's Dave Holland, and thanks for watching String 'em Up. Have fun, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.